Conocido en todo el mundo por su brillante carrera cinematográfica, Richard Gere ha demostrado a lo largo de décadas que su presencia en la vida pública va mucho más allá del cine. Ha sostenido un compromiso profundo con la defensa de los derechos humanos, la promoción de la paz, la justicia social y la dignidad de los pueblos. Su voz, siempre firme y serena, ha acompañado causas que buscan aliviar el sufrimiento, proteger la vida y recordarnos que cada uno forma parte de una comunidad global que merece ser cuidada. Por eso es un privilegio escucharlo hoy en la charla Compasión en acción, una custodia compartida del planeta que deja que la naturaleza y la comunidad nos muestren el camino. Un título que sintetiza de manera hermosa la urgencia de este momento histórico. Necesitamos una ética de corresponsabilidad, un compromiso compartido con la tierra y con quienes la habitamos. En un tiempo marcado por crisis ambientales, tensiones sociales y desafíos globales sin precedentes, la compasión, entendida no como un sentimiento abstracto, sino como una práctica cotidiana, puede convertirse en una brújula poderosa para orientar nuestras decisiones. Richard Gere ha insistido en múltiples foros en que la transformación comienza por la mirada, por la capacidad de reconocer en el otro, el humano o no humano, alguien con quien compartimos el destino. Esa visión de interdependencia tan presente en las filosofías orientales que él ha estudiado y apoyado, encuentra aquí un espacio idóneo para dialogar con las inquietudes de nuestro público, particularmente las y los jóvenes que cada día nos recuerdan la necesidad de imaginar un futuro distinto y luminoso. Agradecemos profundamente a Richard Gere, a la Fundación Richard Gere, que hayan aceptado la invitación de la FIL para compartir sus reflexiones, su sensibilidad y su experiencia. También doy las gracias a quien lo acompaña en esta ocasión, a la Secretaria de Medio Ambiente y Recursos Naturales de México, Alicia Bárcena, por acompañarlo en esta charla. Agradezco de manera muy particular a Sergio Graf, al doctor Sergio Graf, también director general de la Comisión Nacional por estar, a quien le voy a dar la palabra en unos momentos, y por supuesto también al Museo de Ciencias Ambientales de nuestra Universidad de Guadalajara. Muchas gracias a todas y a todos ustedes por acompañarnos esta tarde. Los dejo con ellos. Welcome, Richard. Thank you so much for your presence here. Thank you.
Buenas noches a todas y a todos. Hoy tenemos una conversación de lujo en la Feria Internacional del Libro. Tenemos a dos grandes personas que han trabajado por el bienestar de todos. Primero quiero presentar a Alicia Bárcena Ibarra. Es secretaria de Medio Ambiente y Recursos Naturales de México, bióloga, diplomática y académica, con una amplia trayectoria en el servicio público nacional e internacional en los ámbitos de desarrollo sostenible, el medio ambiente y la política multilateral. Fue secretaria de Relaciones Exteriores, ocupó el cargo de secretaria ejecutiva de la Comisión Económica de América Latina y el Caribe, la CEPAL, de 2008 a 2022, después de haber sido secretaria ejecutiva adjunta y directora de la División de Medio Ambiente y Asentamientos Humanos de dicho organismo. Fue embajadora de México en Chile. En la CEPAL impulsó la incorporación del desarrollo sostenible, la igualdad y la agenda global de financiamiento al centro de las políticas públicas de la región. En el sistema de Naciones Unidas ha desempeñado responsabilidades claves, fue subsecretaria general de gestión de la ONU bajo la conducción de Ban Ki-moon y jefa de gabinete del entonces secretario general Kofi Annan. Asimismo, fue coordinadora del Programa de Desarrollo Sostenible de América Latina y el Caribe del Programa de Naciones Unidas para el Desarrollo y del Proyecto de Ciudadanía Ambiental del Programa de Naciones Unidas del Medio Ambiente, además de haber participado en diversas iniciativas sobre medio ambiente, desarrollo y ciudadanía global. Es autora, fue en México en 1932 la primera subsecretaria de Ecología en la entonces Secretaría de Desarrollo Urbano y Ecología, y en el 88 fue directora general del Instituto Nacional de Pesca. También ha trabajado como consultora de organismos internacionales y múltiples proyectos vinculados a la naturaleza. Esta sólida trayectoria la convierte en una voz de referencia para reflexionar sobre grandes desafíos ambientales y de desarrollo a nivel global. Bienvenida, me da mucho gusto presentar a Alicia Bárcena.
Te faltó decir que soy tu jefa.
Y es mi jefa. Orgullosamente. Hoy tenemos un invitado muy especial en la Feria del Libro. Todos conocemos la trayectoria cinematográfica de Richard Gere, pero además de ser un gran actor, Richard es un referente de compromiso ético, espiritualidad y acción humanitaria. Se ha destacado por su incansable activismo en favor del pueblo tibetano y de los derechos humanos. Desde hace décadas ha puesto su voz, su tiempo y su influencia al servicio de la defensa del Tíbet, la preservación de su cultura y la denuncia de los abusos contra su población, siendo un importante portavoz global de la no violencia y la compasión. Richard Gere es un practicante convencido del budismo tibetano, camino que inició en los años 70 y que se consolidó a partir de su relación cercana con el Dalai Lama. Esta dimensión espiritual no es un elemento accesorio de su vida, no es una moda, sino el núcleo desde el cual articula su visión del mundo, su trabajo y su responsabilidad como figura pública. Fruto de esa visión nació su labor filantrópica, especialmente a través de la fundación que lleva su nombre. La Fundación Richard Gere ha apoyado proyectos de derechos humanos, preservación cultural y ayuda humanitaria en diversas regiones del planeta. Su acción filantrópica demuestra que la fama puede convertirse en herramienta concreta de cambio social. Sus acciones por el bien común incluyen también aspectos ambientales. La Fundación Gere, además de su trabajo humanitario, explicita entre sus objetivos el apoyo a causas ambientales y de justicia climática, financiando iniciativas que combinan la defensa de derechos, equidad social, sostenibilidad ecológica y el impulso de modelos de desarrollo regenerativo con un fuerte compromiso social que seguramente nos va a platicar de eso. Respalda organizaciones y campañas que promueven la preservación de recursos naturales, la transición de energías más limpias y la protección de comunidades vulnerables ante las crisis ambientales. Y ha colaborado con organizaciones como Survival International y proyectos editoriales sobre pueblos tribales, resaltando que la pérdida de sus territorios implica también pérdida de biodiversidad, de servicios ecosistémicos y de resiliencia al cambio climático. Ha sido una voz para transmitir a través de un lenguaje sencilla como narrador y rostro público de varios documentales sobre crisis climática, centrados en explicar los bucles de la retroalimentación que agravan el calentamiento global. A través de estas producciones ha contribuido a acercar conceptos complejos de la ciencia climática a audiencias más amplias, reforzando mensajes sobre la urgencia de abandonar los combustibles fósiles, proteger bosques y reducir emisiones. Esta noche nos acompaña no solo una estrella de cine, sino una persona que ha hecho de su trayectoria una plataforma para el servicio, el diálogo intercultural y la defensa de la dignidad humana. Para él, su familia y la amistad son valores esenciales en su día a día. Para nuestro gran gusto, estos valores involucran a España y a México. Para mí es un honor presentar a Richard Gere. The floor is yours. The floor is yours.
Bueno, imagínense ustedes lo que significa moderar a Richard Gere. Pues hombre, la fama caminando. Pero primero quiero preguntarles, ¿cómo están? Ahora vamos a tener que pasar al inglés, ¿ok? Bueno, we're gonna switch to English because okay. Great. So you can take those off, and we can start. First of all, I want to thank very especially Marisol. Where is Marisol? Thank you so much, Marisol, for inviting us to this very important occasion, I guess.
Yes, brava.
Bravísima. And thank you so much to you and to Sergio for that kind introduction. I was going to say that maybe Richard and I can leave after this introduction.
Now we have to live up to all these wonderful things, which I don't know if it's possible.
Isn't that difficult? That's going to be tough. But one of the things I think everybody wants to know about you
is your journey? How comes that an actor and a film producer like you, transited like you, what is your journey? How do you come up of being such a wonderful actor that everybody knows you for many reasons? And how did you became who you are today? Humanitarian, you have environmental commitments, a soul to share with us today, a word that is the name of the panel, compassion. Tell us about it, please, Richard.
Well, the first thing that occurs to me, by the way, I asked her in advance, I'm going to call her Alicia, okay? She's not the minister. This is my friend Alicia.
Thank you. And I'm going to call you Richard.
Please.
No Mr. Gere.
Okay, my wife comes from the north of Spain, from Galicia, so I'm calling her Alicia. Okay. All right, so you asked me a question. I said, first of all, I'm 76 years old. I don't know how that happened. Because I still feel like I'm 26. But this happens. I remember the Dalai Lama was asked once about time. He said, what do you think about time? And His Holiness said, I like time. I said, why? Because without time, nothing would change. And I think that's something that we all have to learn to embrace, is change. Nothing ever stays the same. Everything is always changing. Our minds are changing. Our friends change. Our bodies change. Our thoughts change. The universe changes. The idea of ourself, the idea of others changes, matures. And I see that in myself over these years, is that these ideas of what we are taught maybe as children is what the world is, what we are, what is our relationship, how do we make a life that's meaningful? Is there meaning? Is this a dark, cold universe? Or is there something more for all of us? And I think that's an ongoing process in all of our hearts and minds, is to keep pushing forward with some sense of courage. We were just talking about courage before we came on stage. But a sense of courage to even give up the idea of yourself that we all protect so much. The idea of me, which ultimately is a construct. There's no me that can be pinpointed. There's a me now, but always changing. Just an idea. And as I get older, I feel that more deeply inside of myself. That maturing sense that I don't really exist the way I appear to exist to myself or others. And the same thing out there. You know, there's, I don't know how many people here, 500 people, something like that. There's 500 stories here. There's 500 me's. But that's only from a certain point of view. From an ultimate point of view, from a physics point of view, from a quantum point of view, from a Buddhist point of view, there is no separation. There's no ultimate separation. There's the illusion of that. But if we can penetrate that illusion and feel like we're coexisting stories that are swirling around each other, and can really feel that deep in our hearts, then radically everything changes. There's no way we can be cruel to each other. There's no way we can be crude. There's no way we can be violent with each other. But there's a genuine sense of compassion and commitment that emerges from challenging the basic idea that I exist the way I appear to exist. And start to give in to the idea that we are really all of us in this together. And together we can make a garden of our lives, make a garden of the universe. Not that hard. It's actually much harder to embrace and keep feeding this idea that we're separate. That takes a lot of energy. Much easier to just go, oh, wow, we're really here together. Completely interconnected. So, you know, my voyage into philosophical thought, to ultimately Buddhism, and my incredible luck and gratitude I have for being a student of the Dalai Lama and other great teachers has made these words I'm saying a little closer to something I really feel inside of my heart.
It's beautiful because your journey is so amazing. And tomorrow there's going to be a documentary that you produced, you were the executive producer, that is called Wisdom of Happiness. Can you tell us a little bit about that? And can we invite these 500 people to watch that documentary?
If I got this
Is that
right,
Marisol? Can everybody come to see the documentary?
10 o'clock. It's 11 o'clock.
11 o'clock, where?
11 o'clock, you're all invited. All of my friends here, all of my brothers and sisters.
No.
Oh, it's a film that I don't even know how to describe it because it's not really a documentary. It's sort of a documentary because
Conversation.
it's partly a conversation, it's partly a teaching, it's partly a history lesson, it's partly a celebration of 90 years of an extraordinary man's life. But it's also an exploration of the life that we live. And in some ways dissecting this moment on this planet this moment of chaos and confusion and post-traumatic stress disorder that we are all feeling in right now, trying to make sense of all of this chaos. So ultimately, you're able to spend an hour and a half with the Dalai Lama. And I don't want to program it too much, what you're going to see, but please come and see this movie.
You know, the thing is that the world, you were talking about the current crisis that we are going in the world. And part of the crisis, my dear Richard, is I would say, the coming of President Trump, who has created a very chaotic and a very, I would say, unstable, uncertain reality that we're living today. So all these global challenges, it seems to me that we are going through a change of era in a way, you know, that something is going to emerge, that we're going to leave something behind and something else is going to emerge, but we are not still there. This was really a Gramsci's thought, and he wrote about it, a world that is not ready to go and a world that is not ready to come in, but monsters are between. So tell us a little bit about how do we rebuild trust? How do we rebuild hope? How to offer some emotional tools in a world of crisis?
You know, I think most of the things we experience, we can look at one way or another. We can be very pessimistic and see this is the end of the world, or we can see it as a genuine challenge. And I choose to see this moment as one of challenge, where the bad guys on the planet are challenging us to stand up for who we really are and the world we really want to live in for ourselves, our kids, our grandchildren. Look, as an American, I'm deeply ashamed of this president we have. That's not, I don't want that to be an applause line, because it's something, it's a challenge to all of us. And we were talking before, your president is pretty amazing, how she's able to deal with this guy. So I applaud her. But clearly we have someone here, and it's not just Trump, we have Orban, we have Putin, we have Netanyahu, we have bad players on the planet right now with enormous power. And from our point of view, I would say probably most of us in this room, they are on the wrong side of history. They're on the wrong side of the present. They're on the wrong side of the future. But it's a challenge to all of us to stand up and to be counted, to be responsible. In this movie that we made with His Holiness, of course, he's talking about spiritual values and basic kindness and love and compassion through a filter of wisdom and skill. But it's one of responsibility and courage to stand up. And not out of anger and hatred, but out of wisdom and passion towards the garden that we all could be living in. You don't get the garden unless you plant the seeds and you water it, and you take care of it. That's our responsibility. We have bad leaders. Let's make sure we don't do that again. We don't allow the bad guys to be our representatives in the world. We want leaders who actually share the same vision of possibility and inclusion, no matter what your color is, your language is, your sexual preference, whatever it may be. Any government that's not inclusive is not the right government. Any leader who's not inclusive is not the right leader. That's an applause line. I'd like to hear that.
I think everybody agrees. You know, the thing is that we were talking about something before we came into stage, and that was that you need courage to go for nonviolence, to go for compassion, to go for, you know, what you're talking about. You need the courage to make a decision that you're not going to be defensive, that you're going to leave your ego behind. I think these are the kind of things that we're talking about.
The cycle of violence only stops if one side stops.
Right. You need to
And you stop because you have the courage and the wisdom and ultimately the love and compassion to see this, who you can label the bad guy, is a human being who's under the influence of a disease right now. And that they can be healed. But it takes patience. All medicine takes time for the fever to come down. And then a base kind of profound healing can happen. But that happens through courage, through wisdom, patience, maturity. And clearly this president we have is not a mature human being. This is not someone who has emotional intelligence. He behaves like a child. And with any child, I see a lot of people that have children here. Who has children? Can you see, raise hands? I think there's a lot of students here who don't have children.
Yes, yes.
The patience that you need when you have children, and I have 4, is extraordinary. But a man like this President Trump, you have to treat him like a child who has impulse control problems. But that's the way we change. Anger obviously doesn't take us to a good place. Hatred doesn't take us to a good place. Love, compassion, patience does. But it has to be used skillfully. And that comes from the wisdom side of understanding reality, understanding who we are at base. And from the Dalai Lama's point of view, my point of view, is at base we are kind and we are generous. And we're always leaning towards love, all of us. If we're given half a chance, always leaning towards love, leaning towards basic kindness, good heart. And that's our job, is to, with courage, follow that instinct.
You know, the thing is that I'm very concerned that we have very little time for some things, like climate change, like biodiversity loss, like the world of inequality.
Well, you should talk about Belém and what you experienced there.
Yeah, and I can tell you that experience to everybody here. I was in Brazil for the COP30, and I was amazed to see something that I want to share with you. We didn't miss the United States. Sorry to say that. We didn't miss the US. We were very worried that Trump stepped out of the Paris Accord, and I thought that everybody was going to be, concerned. But I was very happy to see Europe coming forward with a lot of strength, Asia coming up with a lot of strength, Latin America, this was a Latin American cup, Brazil was very strong too. Of course, we wanted much more than we got what we got, but we got things that are very important. We got an adaptation fund, because I think the world needs today to adapt to climate change. It's so strong what's happening, The loss and damages are already happening. It already happened here in Mexico. 1 month ago, we had a tremendous amount of floods that were very, destructive of many towns. So we are already living the climate change. So what I'm worried about is when you talk about time with Dalai Lama, do we have time to cope with this problem like climate change?
I don't mean be passive. This is not passive standing up. It's the opposite. And these kind of things, look, again, I'm deeply shaken. How could I have a president who says that climate change is a hoax? I mean, it's madness. Madness. And what he's doing now to open up pristine lands to sell off rights to gasoline and minerals, it's insane. It's insane. What he's done in terms of USAID, great programs that the US has evolved over many, many decades that genuinely helps people around the world. USAID was saving tens of millions of lives every year, working especially in poor countries, especially in Africa. First day he stops this. I mean, this is madness, madness. And I don't want to dwell on him, but let's go back to the idea of courage and self-sacrifice that it takes to stop the bad guys. It takes a lot of courage. It takes a serious commitment. It's not words. It's putting yourself on the line. And it's not in the sense of I'm going to get a gun like a terrorist and kill all the bad guys. It's standing up in unity with others. There's no bad guy who could stand up to the millions and millions and billions of people who have a vision of possibility, a vision that is pure and loving and kind and generous. We know there's enough food on this planet for everybody. There's enough, at this moment, clean water for everybody. There's shelter for everybody. There's healthcare for everybody. The hoarding of the resources that we're seeing, especially in the US, but we're seeing it in China now too. Trillionaires, when people are starving. I mean, this is madness. This is an outrage. How can we be passive in the face of that? So the courage to stand up and say no is really what's required right now. It's not sitting there, oh, things will work out in the end. No, the Dalai Lama says it, you say it. We have, if you want to change the world, you have to be in the world. You have to challenge all those things that we take for granted. Well, I'm small. The bad guys want you to feel small. The bad guys want to separate you from each other. They want us to feel alone and powerless. But we're not alone and we're not powerless. We can make the world we want.
Now, the ingredient that we need is to work together.
Together in community, yes.
Because, for example, climate change needs action, joint action, and simultaneous action. It doesn't make any difference if I make something on my own. I need everybody to do the same, And for example, one of the main outcomes of Brazil that I really cherish enormously is for the first time the Brazilians are willing to protect the Amazon. For the first time. There was a big result, which is Tropical Forest Forever, TFFF, which was an agreement. We are part of TFFF, and that means how do we protect the tropical forest of the world simultaneously? Otherwise, we're going to lose the biodiversity. And that's something that we need to do together. But this comes together with another thing that you have been working on, Richard, quite a lot and very strongly on human rights. And this is a value that I think we need to bring back to the forefront, human rights. I think we are living a little bit on the edge of human rights. And I'm sure that the young people that are here, who here is younger than 25 years old? Younger than 25 years old, okay, all right, yes, you, so everybody is younger than 25 years old. Richard said at the beginning that he felt like 25 years old, so everybody should raise their hands. Anyway, but we all want to change the world. That's what we want. We don't like what we're seeing today. We want a world that is better, that has biodiversity, that has respect for indigenous peoples, that has respect for women. How many women are in the room? Exactly. We are more than half, I guess, in this room, probably. So, but the gender perspective is so important. So I wonder if you can tell us a little bit how you see these things. How do we bring back these values, these profound values of human rights, of I don't know, participation, of the community level that you have been working so?
There's a moment in this film with his host, the Dalai Lama, and he talks about compassion. He goes into detail how he really learned about compassion from his mother. And he goes deeply into that, and he worshipped his mother. And she was so kind and so loving, and that was the inspiration that this is really who I am, is compassion. And he took it a little further and he said, you know, I think we need more women leaders in this world. It's very interesting because in Tibetan paintings called tankas, where they represent, there's two basic things that are the mind streams of Buddhism. One is compassion, which we could go into in more detail. The other is wisdom. So it's compassion and wisdom. Compassion it's a vast subject, compassion.
Tell us about it. Tell us about compassion.
From an emotional point of view, from a psychological point of view, this is an evolution of feeling. And the words associated with that in English, and I think they're probably similar in Spanish. But the basic warm heart is part of our nature. It's basically kind beings. There's a basic kindness to us, a warmth to us. I love you too, honey. That's the next word I was going to get to. So we have warm heart, kindness. Another evolution and maturing of that is love. And what does love really mean? We think we're love, we understand love. Let's be specific about love. Love is, I want you to be happy. Simply that. It's not like I want you to love me. I want you to be happy. I love you. That's pure love. So then there's another level of that. It matures and becomes more deep. He said, I want you to be I love you and want you to be happy. But I'm looking at you and I know you're not happy. You're suffering. The thing's wrong. You're frustrated. There are real things that happen to you. You're suffering in your heart and your mind. And I don't like that. I want it to go away. That's compassion. I understand you're hurting, and I want that hurt to go away. That's what compassion is. We can make that universal. We could say, look to every single one of you. My kind heart goes, I love you. And when I say, wow, you're not really happy. There's some levels of things going on. I want that to go away. I want that to go away. There's another level then of maturity that says, I'm going to do that. I'm going to take that suffering away from you. Now that's a high, high level. So that's Jesus Christ, you know, that's the Buddha. Is able to do that because they've so extinguished their own sense of self-cherishing that all they are is compassion and love and altruism. So it's a wide range of possibilities of something that we would generally call love. But it's ever deepening and becomes more universal as that deepens. So it's this movie that you spend an hour and a half with someone who has become altruism. There's no subject-object anymore. It's that spontaneity of love, compassion, altruism. That it's all that's possible for us to achieve. But it's work. You work at that. You build on that. You want to play the piano? You practice, right? You practice every day. You want to be good at jiu-jitsu? You got to practice every day. You build muscles. You do that. But you can do that with your emotions too. You can do it to build. Oh, I can feel my warm heart. Wow, that's who I really am. I'm fragile, warm heart, kind. It's okay. Build on that. To love, I want you to be happy. I know you're suffering. I want that suffering to go. I'm going to do it. The courage of that. And that's the kind of courage that we all have to have with each other. And it's amazing if you can imagine how quick the world changes. Here's 500 people. You walk out of here with that kind of courage. I want to remove all the suffering of the world. I'm going to do it. We're going to do it together. All of us together. We're going to do this. We're going to support each other in that process. We go out and we see 500 other people, and that another 500, okay, 1,000, 10,000, 1 million, 1 billion, the entire universe. But there's no space within 1 billion people going, I love you, I want you to be happy, I wanted you to remove your suffering, I'm going to do it with you. There's no space for the bad guys in that. There's no space for a Trump, or a Xi Jinping, or an Orban, or a Putin, or whoever the bad guys are. There's just no room for it. But we have to have the courage to stand up and say, I love you, you're suffering, and I'm going to take that suffering away from you.
How do we do this to achieve social justice? How do we achieve social justice and environmental justice? Because here we are, many of us, working on environment for many years, and you are also working on environment, and we want to achieve social justice. But we know that social justice without environmental justice is not possible. And to have environmental justice, we need to bring in the communities. We need to bring in the people with us. And you have done a tremendous job on that front. I would like to hear from you, and I think everybody wants to hear from you, what you're doing in Mexico. You're doing such a fantastic job. Yes. First of all, what are you doing in Mexico, first place? Of course, participating in the fair, which is fantastic. But secondly, I know you're doing a fantastic job in Jalisco. And here, in this wonderful state of Jalisco. So I want you to tell us that experience, and also, not only that, how do you convince the communities to join you? You know, it's not easy. The communities are, in a certain way, disenchanted, yes, because of the social justice, the lack of social justice, or because the big capital. Maybe you can also tell us a little bit the vision of the big capital. How do we bring the big capital together with social justice? Because you are working on a social justice project with environmental justice, with the participation of people in the communities. How do you get there? And who's helping you with that?
Yeah, I mean, as we were speaking about before, and anyone who's trying to do good work in the community, you can't take one piece of that puzzle of a social network of how we live together and and isolate that and work on it and think you're really going to change the whole environment. I think we have to be humble enough to realize how big it really is and how holistically we have to see things. And there's no one person, one organization, one government that can do that. You know, there's certain things that I can do well, you know, and I try to use that thing, whatever it is my thing is. But I can't do anything. I've got Sergio Graf. Where's Sergio? So right here. So Sergio knows everything about Jalisco. He's a great environmentalist. He's a scientist, you know, he's the man who knows all this stuff. I can't do my work without him. He can't do his work without someone like me and Alicia. This is how we work together. Now, in terms of working in the communities, the humility of listening is super important.
Wow.
Just listening. In most of these communities I've found, and I've worked around the world on different things, whether it's in the Mediterranean, pulling people out of the water, simple refugees, escaping, migrants, really refugees. And in India, certainly with refugee communities, HIV communities, people have